here we go. Looking like a live show. We are ready to roll. So we're going to try this out again. Not real sure if the first one actually took or not. Did about 15-20 minutes alive and didn't really see anything. Not sure. There we go. Looks like we're on now. Okay. And there you go. Welcome to the show, guys. Monday night, High Desert Music Channel. Was thinking about it this weekend and just decided I'm going to try to do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of setup. We're going to try to make Mondays be kind of a practice talk. You know, what are we going to do? What kind of practice is going to come on this week? What are the goals for the week, if I really had any? So those are things we're going to look into and see what we can come up with. Apparently, as I can see, we're getting crappy internet again. It's kind of coming up and down. So I want to work on that. Also, over the next week or two, I'm going to see about getting a hard line from the box to the computer here, so we can maybe take care of some of that, knock some of that out. I'm turning down every setting I can to try and get a decent solid video for you guys. That's seeming to be pretty tough. As I've said, I have an old computer that is not in the greatest of shape. So we're gonna try to work on that too. Get all that fixed up and get these looking better, sounding better, just being better, better stuff in them. But anyways, we're gonna try to start doing a Monday and a Wednesday and a Friday show. Wednesdays I'm gonna try to make mostly like a gear episode, whether that is gear maintenance, gear repair, gear reviews, you know. And when I say review, it's not going to be like some of these other fantastic reviewers that are out there. You know, some of these channels do some amazingly good reviews. They're just fantastic and really in-depth, really thorough. Mine aren't going to be that way. You know, mine are definitely going to be beginner reviews, given to you by a beginner, you know, and directed at beginners. And that's going to be part of the deal. You know, you guys can watch me get better at those, just like you watch me get better at playing the music. So that's what Wednesdays are going to be. You know, Fridays are going to be the, you know, just got done with lessons live stream. You know, the Friday night live stream is going to be, again, kind of maybe a recap of the week, what I did get done in terms of practice and skill development. What I covered in lessons that night will be part of the show on Fridays as well. And you know, there'll probably be some playing, some stuff like Fridays have been. And I'm going to try to do a lot longer show on Fridays. Maybe, you know, if I can think of enough things to keep going and get us involved, get people in and watching the show, then we'll go a couple hours. I got no problems with that. So this week, in terms of practice, I'm going to spend some time with the guitar on chords. Again, I'm going to try to focus more on chords. Took a guitar to lessons this week instead of a bass, and so I'm going to practice Stand By Me. Maybe, hopefully you guys have watched the videos of me playing that on bass, acoustic and electric. So I'm going to practice the chord version of that, a simple chord version of that tune, just to try and get a little better at chord changes. It's only 3 or 4 chords, 1 measure per chord, so it's easy changes. You see them coming, so to speak, and that hopefully will make them easier to make those changes. So we're going to give that a shot. That's going to be kind of my focus, at least in terms of the guitar, is working on those chord changes some more and actually trying to get somewhere with it. I've totally been neglecting my guitar for the last several weeks, and I've spent a lot of time with the bass. I like playing the bass, I think, a little better than I do playing the guitar. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop. I think that each one makes you a little bit better with the other, if that makes sense. Maybe some of you guys are out there trying to learn both. Maybe you're in the same boat I am, and you're trying to figure out how to play a bass and how to play a guitar, and kind of how to make a mesh, and what's the same, what crosses over, what doesn't. It's kind of interesting to me how that works out. Like, I haven't obviously learned a lot of that, but trying to pick up on it, and I can see a lot of things where maybe I wouldn't have caught on to them if I wasn't doing one, and if I wasn't trying to learn how to play both. I also see where perhaps the guitar's maybe gotten in the way. I don't really want to say gotten in the way exactly, but I play bass with a pick, which I know is not a huge thing. I know there's a lot of people out there that would tell me how sacrilegious that is, and you'll never be a real bass player with a pick, and blah blah blah. Well, so be it. People say what they say. People think what they think. That's such is the world. I play with the pick because when I first started, it was just easier for me because I'd been playing the guitar with a pick for about a month. My first bass was a Glary. So anybody that knows, music and musical instruments, you know what Glary, you know where a Glary stands in the pantheon of musical instruments, so to speak. However, I still play her from time to time, and she will probably always be one of my favorites. I'll never get rid of her. Large portions of my collection have vanished over the last few weeks, and for various reasons. But anyway, that one will remain forever. I have some ideas, maybe fix that up, do that on the show, put a new neck on it, a 24 fret neck, things like that. Put a new set of pickups in it, something decent, put like EMG pickups, a nice set of pickups in it. Active EMG actives, maybe, I don't know. I've seen a set that seem alright to me, but I'm a beginner and I don't know on that one. So one of the things that kind of I'm kind of leery about with that. So I had an SG worn walnut. It was a beautiful guitar, great guitar. It was in pretty good shape when I got it in terms of the body and the neck and the headstock. It was in good shape. I got it because I had this idea that I wanted to put Fishman Fluence modern 3-voice pickups in it. And I did. I got that done. I had to carve a hole in the back for a battery box and get the pickups in. And in the end I had about $1,000 into an Epiphone SG and was just absolutely unhappy with what I got. Personally, I did not find them to be what they were advertised to be. Traded a lot of emails with Fishman on this, and they were not extraordinarily helpful. I'm not going to say that they were unkind or something like that. They were professional and they conducted themselves correctly. They were simply not helpful to me. Um, I personally, I think that they advertise them as three distinct voices, independent of each other per pickup, and that is actually not the case. It's not really how it works. They do depend entirely on one another to get the three voices. There are three different sounds. What I found and what individuals at my local guitar retailer and the place I like to go for my musical stuff, several of the employees there played it. The gentleman that put it together for me played it several more times, looked everything over several times again, and it was impossible to get a clean tone. Now, folks that know music pretty well, know guitars pretty well, you're going to look at me and go, well, what the hell do you want a clean tone out of an SG for? I get it. I know it's not normalcy. I understand. Pardon me. I understand that that's not normally what people go looking for. I wanted it as an option, to make a one guitar more versatile, to be able to do a few more things, play a few more tunes. And it wasn't the case, and I wasn't real happy with it. That guitar has left the group. But it has only slightly deterred me in making major changes to the Glary. It's a Glary. I think I gave like $80 for the bass, a 10 or a 20 watt bass amp, also a Glary bass amp, and a bag. It was an eBay purchase. It was great. I was fine with it. I tell you what, we'll get into this on Wednesday, and the Glary. I'll talk about that one in the maintenance and the gear show, because that's the one where I taught myself kind of how to work on stuff. It was $68, man, and by that time, and when I realized that I needed to do some things to it, and that guitars required a setup and required things to be changed, I had no clue. I'd just been playing at things. So by the time I really realized that needed to be done, I had backup instruments. I had purchased another bass. By that time, I had still have it, but I bought a Jackson JS3. Bought it brand new. First brand new instrument that I ever bought was that Jackson. The SG that I play normally, I bought used on eBay. It came from a pawn shop. We'll go through that one at some point. I've changed the pickups in that one. It was like 13. I think it's an 010 model year. So it was 14 years old when I got it, and the pickups were a little scratchy, controls were a little scratchy, so they've been changed, and we can talk about that and what pickups I bought and all that. But that's going to be what the Wednesday shows are about, and so we'll get into those. Monday shows, like I said, I want to talk more about practice, methods of practice, things like that. What's important to practice? Like, I need to personally, I know, and I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there, a lot of folks out there that are trying to learn and are in the same boat. And even if you already know how to play, but you're, somehow involved in music and it's a regular thing for you, it's tough sometimes to practice, right? It's easy to play tunes and play the songs you want to play and have fun. That's the easy part. But then you get in a rut, and I'm finding myself there, and I need to really, this week, focus on actual practice, and finger technique, and fretboard hand, left hand fret, left hand fingering technique, right hand picking technique, strumming patterns. All these things are things that I need to be working on with a guitar and a bass, certainly finger positioning, correct finger usage is obviously very important on both. bass and guitar. So those are the things I need to focus on this week. It is very tough, and we all know that. So hopefully, knowing that I have this vast YouTube audience, man, to answer to, knowing that, I'll practice a little harder. And also, you know what? I know my mother watches these videos. Hi, Mom. So anyway, so a lot of you guys got to be old enough to remember the 80s, football guys. Hi, Mom. You guys remember that? That was some funny stuff, man. I thought it was funny anyhow when I was a youngster. I mean, I was like a gazillion years ago or something, man. I mean, I'm, pretty old these days. Anyhow, knowing that you guys are out there to hold me accountable, and that my mother is out there to hold me accountable, because now she can see me saying it. I'm going to try to practice this week a little more than I have the last couple of weeks. I'm not going to lie. I've just been playing music the last couple of weeks and playing the same songs over and over, which isn't bad. I get better at them. You still have watched my videos. I still make mistakes. Obviously, I'm not a professional. But, it is getting better. Sound quality is improving, at least in my mind. I'm picking some things up. While we're talking about practice and that stuff, I kind of wanted to figure out some ways to show my practice on these videos. I have a Line 6 JM4 loop station. I looked into it enough, I guess, realistically, to know that even those tunes are copyrighted, and I can't let you hear those while I play against those. So I'm going to look into some other ideas. Eventually, who knows, man. Pardon me. Eventually, I'll come up with some method. Sooner than later, I will be trying. I guarantee that. I have, gotten enough feedback already to know that a lot of folks would like to hear something other than just my crappy playing. Like, they'd actually like to hear a song, and maybe wash out some of my crappy playing while we're at it. But that's totally understandable. I get it. So I'm gonna look into figuring that one out. I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't know how to accomplish that. Quite honestly, it has crossed my mind, and I may very well try it, to send an email to the folks over at Musician and just beg them to, sponsor the show. Make my life a little easier. I could just play right along with what I've been playing right along with. I don't know that would make for good TV, but it's worth a shot just to ask them, hey man, what's the possibility of how much can I play? 15 seconds? Can I play 10 seconds of your songs? I mean, what could I do? So I'm going to look into something. There's got to be a way for me to come up with some sort of music, even if it's, who knows, maybe I'll beg some of the guys at the guitar store to lay down a couple of tracks for me that I can play, because then they're, not copywritten material. I certainly don't play enough instruments, nor do I play enough instruments well enough to be a one-man band and create such a thing. So, some of you folks that have brought that up to me and said so, I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure something out. I don't know a whole lot about copyright law, other than to say I don't want to get mixed up on the wrong side of it. But then again, who does? I mean, who knows why in God's name you would want to get mixed up in copyright fraud, but I sure don't. So we'll figure out some way around that, because that's a great tool. Part of the reasoning for bringing that one up is, let me circle this back around here, okay, so it makes a little more sense. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, thanks guys, thanks. So anyway, the live studio audience here in the background, let's give them another one, guys. Yeah, there you go. See, boy howdy, they're worked up tonight. Anyway, Christ, I forgot what I was going to say. It happens to me, old, bad life choices over the years, things like that. It slips your mind here and there. So the reasoning for that, the Line 6 JM4 looper is a fantastic tool, in my personal opinion, for folks that are learning. It offers a little more than some of these loop stations. Maybe you saw the video, I had an RC5, a Boss RC5, and I had a Boss RC50. Both of them great, solid, hardcore pedals. Very user-friendly, full of good stuff. Features, blah, blah, blah. Very usable, nice toys to have. And for other folks, I think could be super. I could obviously see that they're super, super, super useful. For me, I needed a little more than just a drum beat or a metronome kind of a thing. I still need a little more than that to try and be able to improvise, which is kind of where I would like to go. That was exactly what I said to Ross when the first day of lessons. I don't know how long ago that's been. It's been a while. 5-6 months. I don't know. Been a while. But the very first day, he asked me, what's your goal, in music? Why are you here? Why, at 48 years old, are you walking in the door to take lessons from me? And I said, in the end, I really just want to be able to pick up a guitar or a bass and play it and not have to follow the musician and not feel like maybe I'm not a guitar player, maybe I'm not a bass player, because really I'm just kind of playing a video game. And for anybody that's ever used Musician, it is a little video gamey. Don't get me wrong. It has some definite video game feel. Follow the bouncing ball, use the correct finger, works for my mind. Video gamey or not, it works for me. But I also see, as I said the other night, where that could be a crutch. And that's part of, working on the fundamentals and scales, knowing scales by heart and being able to just hammer them out without even looking. Because I understand what Ross is trying to get to me is that if you know all those and you have them memorized and you can think about them in your head, then you'll be much better off in terms of knowing what notes are going to work together, what does and doesn't fit, and what's going to work, what's not. And I get it, I understand that, and that's part of what I need to do this week is actually knuckle down and practice. Go through some of the musician courses and try and up my level on there, and chord trainers that they offer. They do offer a lot of teaching tools on there. I have a gang of other apps on phone and tablet to also help. I'm going to try to use Ultimate Guitar for the chord sheet and chord progressions for Stand By Me this week as I try to practice that. They're pretty easy, and that's something too that I kind of brought up to Ross this week that maybe I want to try to get into is, I don't want to say books, but written, not on Musician, but just the same sort of thing, written out, kind of written out tabs. And at least in terms of guitar, Ultimate Chord seems to do that pretty well. So I'm gonna try that out this week with the guitar. We're gonna work on a lot of chords. So perhaps then by the time we get back next, to Friday's show, probably gonna take guitar to lessons this week again, just to kind of reinforce what I've been up to, and try to get that stuff to work a little better for me. But that's what I'm going to be working on there is chords. With bass, it's going to be playing with my fingers, and trying to get there. There's a few songs I can get through playing with my fingers, but I'm still having a lot of trouble. 1, 2, left, right with the walk. I'm just having trouble with that. And I know it's a ridiculously simple thing. I just need to spend time trying. Maybe you saw me in the other video. I did. I made it pretty clear that I'm pretty heavy-handed when I play a bass. Which I think is why the pick works so well for me, because I am kind of heavy-handed. I kind of take the Newstead approach, and I attack the bass. I play a guitar, at least. If you're playing Dio, Holy Diver, you're playing Metallica tunes, Unforgiven, stuff like that. Yeah, it just seems more logical to attack the bass than to play it. Play Kool and the Gang. That's a group that I try to play their songs with my fingers. Get Down on It is one I've been working on a lot lately. It's a pretty cool tune. It's real easy. There's not much to it. It's a pretty simple tune to play, which is what makes it work for trying to learn with your fingers. But you don't attack that. You play that completely different because it's Kool and the Gang. It's not Metallica. So those are all things that you kind of learn along the way, and figuring out how to play with fingers is part of that. I've reached a point now with my ability and my skill. I can tell to some degree, like, okay, this particular song or this artist or this style of music is best played on my Squier P-Bass, right, on my Squier Precision. These type of tunes are best played on my Ibanez or my Schecter. And believe it or not, there's a couple of tunes that are like, that actually sounds best on the Glary. Believe it or not. So I kind of think that I noticed the difference. At least in my mind, I think that I do. And so I'm trying to zero in on the full change in sound. And a lot of that to me is going to be playing with the pick or playing with your fingers. Because it does, as most of us know, changes everything wildly. It's amazing the difference of playing with your fingers and playing with a pick. Hugely different sound. You can play the same song and they just sound completely different. So that's part of my practice this week. So anyway, that's a half hour about. That's kind of, I'm not sure really how to structure all these live shows just yet. I'll zero in on that, but I do believe that Mondays are going to be about practice. Wednesday's going to be about gear. Try to stop scratching my face while we're on camera here. But hey, I'm not a professional. I told you all that before. Crazy redneck out of Missouri. Anyhow, Wednesdays is going to be more gear. More gear related. Fixing gear, working on gear, buying gear, stuff like that. And then Friday's kind of, weekly recap, weekend wind up, try to maybe stick to the crappy covers coming out on Saturdays. I'm going to zero in on that too, as I said, with the scheduling of the videos as opposed to just instantly publishing. So I'll try to zero in on some of that and get a little better for you guys, a little more on a schedule with what's coming out and when it's coming out, and maybe even down to, Nat's ass kind of stuff where you just know Tuesday's going to be heavy metal covers, and Thursday is going to be R&B covers, and Saturday will be a little bit all of it covers, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday we got the kooky live shows. We'll zero in on how all that works. I'm figuring it out, and hopefully we can get the software and the hardware and all that kind of settled in. Hopefully, again, that these levels are working. I did check, and it seems like I wasn't in stereo last time around, so hopefully we can keep that going. Yeah, I know. You guys like it when we're in stereo, yeah. For whatever reason, I mean, it's a live studio audience, but they seem to care about whether or not I'm in stereo, yeah. So anyways, some people's kids, what are you going to do? I mean, it is what it is, man. All right, gang. Well, I sure appreciate you coming by and checking out the show. Like the channel, High Desert Music channel. Give us a like the videos. Subscribe to the channel. Eventually I'll get that right, too. And we'll have some sort of a thing that we just do every single time, right? Then, anyways. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Like the videos. Comment on the videos. Good, better, otherwise. I'd love to hear it. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see. Do we need a sidekick? Maybe we need some sort of a sidekick. I don't know. But let me know, and we'll try to get you taken care of. Thanks, guys. We will talk to you Wednesday night. We'll do some gear work on Wednesday, some gear reviews, talk about some gear. Probably going to try to change that pickup in the fender on Wednesday. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos, comment on the videos, tell us what you think. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening. Have some fun.